Is Jared Goff trending towards a Hall of Fame career? Right now.
Yes.
Your thoughts?
Yes. Oh gosh, yes. You have to. After the renaissance of the last few years, absolutely. And the more you see some of the comparative stats, he's done this through his first whatever, he's done that through his first whatever. You see those things pop up during the course of games. How on earth could you argue it, especially once you mix in a ring? And obviously we hope it's this year. I'm not saying anything we don't know, but at that point in time, my goodness gracious, how could you have that discussion any longer? You have to acknowledge it now.
People are going to fight, man. They're going to fight with every fiber of their being on it, Sean,
right
because
ahead.
their back's against the wall.
Go right ahead. You know what? It comes to a point in time where when you've got the numbers to support it, it's just like the people like me that a few years ago said, I don't know what happened to this guy. He's a turnover machine. He turns the ball over constantly, right? I wasn't wrong. I was speaking in fact, okay? Now, the flip side to that is you have to acknowledge what a guy is doing, both good and bad. What the guy is doing is comparable to a bunch of studs. And you see those graphics come up each and every game, Neal. You saw the graphics coming up when you were out in Hawaii. They're the same graphics, by the way. They don't have like a Detroit version of graphics. No, those are graphics that are going across everywhere. And he's at that point. Trending is a good word, KG. It is.
He's elevated his game. He is absolutely in his prime right now. If you look at the last 2 years, he's been a top 5 QB in a lot of categories, over the last 2 years. And then when you add in the Lions' history, he got more done in 2 weeks than Matt Stafford did in 12 years. Got the Lions to an NFC championship game and was a half away from it. If he can get to a Super Bowl and they go in there and win that damn thing, it's not a doubt in my mind. But even if they don't, if he can put together another 3 to 4 years of this kind of play, I don't see why he wouldn't make the Hall of Fame.
Neal, you know what's interesting? And I agree with you. I want to go back to something that you said in the last segment that I thought was spot on. And it's the lazy media members, the lazy people that scratch the surface, okay? You know as well as I do, and everybody else out there, you know this. Do you know what people are going to say about Josh Allen and Jared Goff? Well, Josh Allen went to Ford Field and knocked off the Lions, and he was unstoppable. You're right. You're absolutely right. I am not going to argue that. But did you just press one button so you could look at the other team's stats? Jared Goff had 494 yards passing and 5 touchdowns. Oh, by the way, he also rushed for, what was it, like 15 yards or whatever the hell it was? He had over 500 yards of offense and 5 touchdowns. Really, is that what it's coming down to? Now, listen, at the end of the day, you are spot on. There are people that are just going to look at that stat line, Josh Allen's stat line, mind you, and the final score. I would contend, dig a little deeper, because there's more of a conversation than I think people are willing to say. 494 and 5 touchdowns through the air, over 500 yards of offense. Should he be hanging his head? Like what are we doing here? But unfortunately, that's the routine for a lot of these cats, man.
Again, this year, as I peruse the numbers, just real quick, and this isn't, I'm not doing some analyzed breakdown. He's second in the league in yardage. He's 4th in the league in touchdowns.
There you go.
Last year, he was second in the league in yardage. He was 4th in touchdowns. I'm done having that discussion, man. I wanted to bring it up because somebody brought it up in the chat, so I know it's on people's minds. But again, here we are having this discussion. We're 15 weeks into the season. Last year was exactly the same as this year. 2nd in yards, 4th in touchdowns. You're an idiot. Let's just cut the shit, KG, all right? If you still don't think that Jared Goff is an elite quarterback in the league, you're an idiot.
It's your fault.
Accuracy is a trait. Accuracy matters. Command of a huddle. Guys will go to war for. That stuff matters. It's not just, and look, bottom line, this will be very, very unpopular with those people. The Josh Allen thing, and I just kind of parachuted back into the numbers. You look at what Lamar Jackson's doing this year. And look, I know as well as anybody how the real world works, right? The media's made up their mind, and Josh Allen's getting the award. If you have it in a minute, pull up those Lamar Jackson numbers again, and I know what the narrative is, right? I'll say this. Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen are on the exact same exit of the highway. To quote Metallica, nothing else matters. If they don't get the Super Bowl win, there's nothing else that they can do. But if you're looking at an MVP award, dude, Lamar Jackson's silly with it. Josh Allen will probably get it. I don't care. Jared Goff doesn't care. We have an elite quarterback in Detroit. Period. Hard stop.
That's the funniest thing, Neal. It's there's so much of an all or nothing mentality now. It doesn't make Jared Goff a less than quarterback. Neal, I'll tell you point blank, and I know it's not going to be popular, and if you guys want to scream at me, if I had a vote, I'd vote Josh Allen. I would vote Josh Allen. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Because Jared Goff is not that far away. And it doesn't make Jared Goff a less than quarterback. It doesn't take away from what he's been able to do with this team. I think that there are other factors that go into it. I think what he has around him. In my mind, we can't sit back out of one side of our mouth and talk about our plethora of weapons, which is real, and then say, well, that doesn't count in a conversation like that. I just don't think the guy has a lot around him. But this is where the all or nothing conversation comes in my mind. That doesn't mean that he's dog shit.
No.
That doesn't mean that he's not like right underneath them, not only in the conversation, but oh, by the way, as a guy that can go win everything.
And Sean, that's what irritates me is because that's the narrative around Jared Goff. Yeah, he's great, he's top 5, he's this, he's that, but Ben Johnson, but all the weapons around him. First of all, that's not his fault. Just point blank, period.
Nope.
And secondly, he doesn't get enough credit for going out there and executing. You can have the greatest offensive coordinator in the fucking world, but if you're not going out there and executing on every play, and I mean, he's busted every narrative. Oh, he can't play in cold weather. He's busted that. Oh, he can't throw the deep ball. He led the league in air yards last year, and then look, he's throwing bombs to J-Mo in 19-degree weather. Like, what are we talking about? Every single challenge that they've thrown in front of him, he's beating that narrative, man. So I don't think he gets enough credit for executing.
Agreed.
A great offense.
Agreed.
Christmas Eve, very underrated.
Slept on.
Because we're here, right? We're at the holiday time, but there's none of the responsibilities. Not even, and look, pound for pound, Christmas Eve is better than Christmas Day. To me, it is. It's number one. It's number one. Number one. I love Christmas Eve, but Christmas Eve has all the vibes and none of the responsibility.
You know what I have to do? I was telling the guys in here today, Neal, like for me, my brain is going a million miles an hour because we're going to have a lot of people over. And so, like, for me, Christmas Eve is when I do some of the stuff ahead of time. Like, I'm literally making like 500 like pigs in a blanket, okay? So you know what I do? I fire them in the oven tonight and then just go, you know what? I'm going to wrap them tomorrow anyway. I'm just going to keep them in the oven. One less thing I have to do. But that's chill. I'm not running around. I got the game on. I'm sipping a few beverages. There's a good vibe about Christmas Eve.
No, I do. I absolutely love it. In the chat, I saved this one because I'm waiting to get to it. And Skydog722 in the chat. Sean Neal, Stick might be mad at me because I said the defense made Caleb Williams look like Steve Young. Can you explain why he would be upset? Skydog, hey, I'll take a crack at this. Probably because you don't truly believe that. Probably because when you're up 34-14 on the road and you are doing whatever you want offensively, you have no fear of the Chicago Bears. You have no fear of them. You have no fear of Caleb Williams. So, yeah, and Sean, again, I'll defer to the football people because I always like to put that disclaimer out there. But even me, who watches the ball all the time, because that's my profession. That's what I do. I watch the ball in games, and I tell you what's going on. And I can't break myself from it. It's what I do when I watch games. Even me, who has a less than understanding of what's going on than all the football people, can tell you this. It seemed to me they played a whole lot of zone, Sean, which would make sense because they're up 20 points in the second half on the road against a quarterback who is no threat, who put up 3 points in the second half. Am I warm on that, Sean?
It is. Do you know what it was? I thought it was a Jake Plummer performance. It was a Jake Plummer performance. And Neal, that's one of the worst bits in the history of the NFL as far as I'm concerned. Here comes Jake the Snake. Well, when you're down 35-0, and oh, by the way, you were a shitstorm before then, well, defenses are going to back off a little bit. That's just the reality of it. I mean, when you look at it, Caleb Williams went 26 of 40 for 334 yards and 2 touchdowns. A vast majority of that was when you were down 20-0. So when you're down 20-0, you bet your sweet patootie you're going to play differently. That's just the way it is. And I guess the question that I would have for Skydog or anybody else, at any point in that time, did you go, oh no, here come the Bears. Oh no, here comes Caleb Williams. No, you didn't. You know it. I know it. We can all move on from it.
America knows it. DJ in the chat. Dude put up 17 points, was down 20-0 before they scored, and y'all talking defense. Still a joke. That's a joke question. Clown question, bro. I believe it is the proper terminology. But still, though, Sean, it's just they scored 3 points in the second half at home.
Yeah.
Period. Your defense played well. Your defense played well, especially when you have a surgeon at quarterback and a mad scientist as the offensive coordinator. And oh, by the way, can we talk about the play? Can we talk about that?
Which one?
The stumble bomb?
Which one?
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody wants to talk, and the ha-ha and the he-he's and all that kind of stuff about it. I don't know if people heard it. You know the origin of that, Sean? They were talking about it. That actually happened in a game against the Bears earlier this year. It actually happened. The Packers. It happened to the Packers. Somebody fell down. Bears lost their mind defensively. There were people open everywhere. That's how deep it runs, Sean. That I always laugh when people question coaches and the job coaches do, and they weren't prepared and stuff like that. Teams weren't prepared. That's a media thing. That's how deep it runs, to where that's how comprehensive the game plan was. What angle can we get on these guys? Where are they weak at? What can we exploit? Hey, here's an idea. I saw this earlier this year. Somebody actually fell on the ground, and the Bears didn't know what to do. So let's pretend like we fell on the ground. The Bears won't know what to do. And guess what happened? They didn't know what to do, Sean. It was a masterclass in coaching.
That's what you do. One of my favorite plays, like when you have that aggressive pin the ears back defense, right? Like I always joked I would be the worst defensive coordinator in the history of mankind because my base defense would be send them. Like, right? It just say, hey, coach, what do you want us to do? Send them. Like, hey, Neal's on the edge looking at the sideline. I just go like this. I let everybody know Neal's coming off the edge. He's coming on a blitz, okay? So how many times do you see teams pick apart a defense like that? Okay, I'm going to use your over-aggressiveness against you, and I'm going to pause that second and set up a screen, and it's going to go for 35 yards. It might go for 50 yards. So you use the defense's weaknesses against them, and that's why guys look at film. That's why guys do that studying to pick up on things like that. To try to take away from him picking that up is crazy. And some people were actually doing that, and it's like, you're a miserable human being. Like, what are you even doing? This is the man's job. He's watching tape. He's looking for any kind of edge he could use. Oh, by the way, it turned into 6 points. Cool.
Once again, Jared Goff in the execution, because you have to, everything has to work for that play in order for that to work,
100%.
man. He stumbled. He was able to keep his balance, still find Sam Laporta. You had the defense yelling fumble because he sold it so well. Like, these are the things to where I stick up for Jared Goff, because, yes, he has a great team around him, but you still have to go out there and do the damn thing. And that was just a great play call and great execution by Jared Goff and offense.
Woodward Sports Chat thread, jump into there. You can jump the line with the super chat option as well. So that's on the table. If you want to get your shit off instantly, as KG would like to say, MPWMU. I was told Goff is a game manager. Sean, I love that I was told has become a thing. It's one of the things I'm most proud of in my career. I've done a lot of cool stuff. I'm doing cool things now, all right? I get to do a lot of cool stuff. My life is great. But one of the things I'm most proud of, I was told, has become a movement, and I'm here for it, Sean.
No, and you should pat yourself on the back, but in our business, somebody else will take credit for it. So maybe you really didn't do it, Neal. Maybe you really didn't do it.
I'm sure you'll hear it on the flagship later, as a matter of fact. Later on today, as a matter of fact. By the way, watch this show now, hear what you're going to hear on the radio later. Tyler Jonas, Neal is a tool. Thank you, Tyler. Appreciate that.
Appreciate that.
In the chat. Okay. All right, let's go. All right, here. I'm cutting the break off because I want to get to this one.
Uh-oh.
And I was waiting, and Sean, I pointed at him in the camera, and one of them blew their cover. They stepped out into the chat. We're going to discuss when I'm cutting the break early just so we can give it its proper due.